Hey, you beautiful being. Welcome to Empowered Human. I am your host, Nina Garcia, and today's episode is all going to be about truly belonging. Now, when we talk about truly belonging here, let it be known, this is truly belonging to yourself. I'm not talking about other people or the world at large. I mean, truly being able to say, I own my truth and I belong to myself. My security lies within me. Yes, yes. When we are truly belonging, friend, if you are ready to do this work and ready to lean into that, then you are ready to say, I am willing to carry my home within me everywhere I go. That comfort of feeling like you are home within your own skin everywhere you go. Yes, you deserve it. Yes, you deserve it. I deserve it too. And I want to spread those skills around so that we can do it. So if that sounds like your jam, this is going to be a great episode for you. It is number 3 in the series. We've been talking about the 3 core pillars of what it takes to have an empowered human life. And we find, folks, that it is courage, healing, and belonging. Now, belonging is, of course, today's episode. If you haven't listened to the episodes on courage, that's practicing courage was the name of that one, or healing, and that one was healing your individual culture. If you haven't listened to either of those, I highly recommend that you take a minute now, pause this one, go add them to your queue, right? Go add them to your queue so that you can gain the skills that we're talking about here. Now, of course, we've got short podcast episodes here. It's not going to be everything, but it is going to be at least one facet for you to be able to begin to explore. Pause for effect here. To begin to explore how you can confidently and securely show up everywhere you go. Not a facade, not pretending, not putting on a mask. I mean, unmasking and confidently showing up as yourself everywhere you go. I do believe you deserve that. I believe I deserve that. And of course, I want us to do it in an empowered way, which means I'm not oppressing you and I'm not oppressing me, okay? So if that sounds like your jam, you're like, yes, Nina, check. I'm all about growth. Yes, I'm ready to do that work. Then grab your journal or a really good friend to dialogue with about what comes up for you in this episode. Y'all, we love to play with transforming hard conversations into teachable moments. And now we're about to begin. So now, without further ado, you know I'm curious. Are you ready to play? Welcome to Empowered Human, the dramatically playful podcast that invites you to heal humanity, the one within you, me, and the world at large. I'm your host, drama therapist, empowerment specialist, and not to mention empowered human, Nina Garcia, and I'm so stoked you're joining me on the journey. Every Wednesday, you are invited to explore transforming from powered to empowered with genuinely human stories of courageous existence, healing from invalidation, and truly belonging to you. So wherever you are on the spectrum, from empowerment curious to empowered human ambassador, this podcast is designed to humanize. Get ready to lean into your edge, heal your worldview, and finally belong to you. This is Empowered Human. Let's take a breath. Just take it on in. It's a great opportunity to stretch if you need to before you exhale it on out and down, because we are gearing up to do the work. Are you ready, folks? I hope you're ready. So first things first, I'm going to start with a story today. Too often in my line of work, right? Y'all know I'm a therapist, I am a mom, a single mom, right? And I am really passionate about, getting out there and engaging in the community and with my family. And I have lots of opportunities to engage with people in really uncomfortable situations. Now, the thing is, I am coming from an empowered mindset. So I say we can play with this. Let's build a bridge. Empowered mindset is all about building a bridge. So write that down on your journals, click save in your brains. We want to build a bridge. So I have lots of opportunities to engage in uncomfortable moments in which I get to say, let's play with this and build a bridge. And what I will often hear back from people is this single statement. And it's funny because I'm recording this episode now and I heard it in the last 24 hours, but I will hear over and over again, well, I mean, Nina, you're so confident, you're so secure, as if I've always been this way, right? You're so that, like, you've never been bullied. You don't get it. You don't understand. Y'all. Why you think I started this podcast to begin with, right? Why would I be able to speak about these things if I do not intimately know and understand what it is to not fit in, to not belong, and to hear this narrative over and over and over again? So as you listen in to the remainder, right, I'm gonna share a little bit more of my story. I want you to find ways that you connect and relate to it. And if it's not a part of your story and you've experienced something different, beautiful. Own that as your truth, right? But let me go ahead and share a little bit of my perspective of where I've been, right? On my individual culture island, having my individually lived experiences that have made me who I am. So when I talk about bullying in my own life, I have experienced bullying, I want to say every year of my life, but from as early as I can remember in elementary school. I remember being bullied because I was too tall. I was taller than everyone else. I remember being bullied because I came from a new place and people thought I was odd and different. I was coming from New York down to Texas, right? I had a different flair, different energy. So it's geographically, right? I was like, cast out for that reason. I've been bullied because I was smaller than other people. Yes, I had a fifth grade bully who bullied me until somebody else on the bus bullied her, and then I got a reprieve from that. I remember being in fifth grade and a girl making a mixture of spit and mud and gross things in a cup, and then turning to me and throwing it on me. I remember that day in particular, I walked home alone to my house. I was supposed to be spending time with that girl, and I left and I said nothing. And I walked into my house and my mother saw me and I was tearing up. And she said, "What happened?" And I told her. She threw a cup of gross things on me, right? From a very young age, I have experienced not fitting in, but not understanding why. The different tales that I could tell about the experiences that I've had bullying, right, are many. And this is not a sob story or feel bad for me. It's just the reality of growing up as I human in the world. I was smaller at some points. I was taller at other points, right? My geographic region was different than people expected. I was different because I was Latina, and yet I was not Latina enough for others. And so I was bullied for that. I've been bullied because my skin was too dark and also because my skin was too light. I've been bullied because I don't speak Spanish fluently. Or, oh man, you speak Spanish so well, but your accent is so funny because I don't have a Puerto Rican accent. Didn't learn my Spanish in Puerto Rico. I learned it through an app for the most part, right? And so there's this constant narrative for those of us who've been bullied that you are not enough. One of the worst experiences I had in middle school, and this one's important, so lean in here, folks, because I'm going to add some facets that I want you to think about. One of the worst experiences I had in middle school was I had this group of Latin girls from all different countries who bullied me constantly. They were always saying negative things about me. They were making fun of my clothes. They made fun of the way I walked. They made fun of the way I talked. I explicitly remember this. But there was one day when I was walking down this rather large hallway to lunch. I was walking to the lunchroom. I was walking alone and I had my lunch kit held so tightly to my chest and tears were streaming down my face. I was quietly crying. My chin was held up high and the tears were coming. As not 10, 12 feet behind me, they berated me. They said horrible things about me. They weren't true, right? Just ugly things that they were casting on me, projecting on me. And they were laughing at it at my expense. They couldn't see that I was crying. I didn't turn around. But the tears that were coming down, despite my chin held high, Take a snapshot of that. A middle schooler whose head is still held up, even though the tears are coming down, as their bullies, right, are not far behind. I had courage, right? We think about the three pillars: courage, healing, and then belonging. I had courage. It wasn't enough. I was being harmed and I didn't know how to remove myself from the harm. This is why courage is the first part that we explore as a pillar. When we're trying to say, I want to confidently and securely show up everywhere I go, you got to have courage first. We then move into, there was a part of us, right? There is a part of us, especially in this story, right, that was harmed. I had to know how to heal so that I would not continue to experience that harm ripple out within my life, and so that I did not have to experience that harm be externalized back at those bullies. Healing is the second pillar, because after we have the courage to acknowledge who we are, where we are, and the uncomfortable situations we are in, we can then say, you know what? I'm going to choose not to harm them. I'm going to choose healing because I deserve that. Because I deserve not to be victimized and also not to be a victimizer. I refuse to eat that story and regurgitate it back to them, okay? The third pillar is then belonging. We work on courage and healing first, because the reality is that even though that's the story I told you in middle school, in high school, same thing. In fact, I had a sick teacher who was unwell, right? For those of you who know the abuse story that's happened there, we're not going to explore that right now, but they spread the narrative that I had outed one of my friends. I did not know that they had spread that, but everyone believed it. And then I was bullied for being a person who would do that. It was not the case. Sick teacher had done this, right? Power, manipulation, all of these are part of how we continue to say someone does not belong, and we're going to let them know. I'm going to leave the stories there, and I hope that you are exploring internally your own moments where you have been one of the three following things: where you have been minimized, misrepresented, or outright rejected. I want you to be able to explore those moments, because they don't belong to our bullies. They don't belong to the victimizers. They are ours. And until we have the courage to own that these uncomfortable truths are ours, we may struggle to heal them. And until we have the ability to heal parts of us that have been harmed, we may continue to do harm. Notice I'm saying may here, right? It's not a given. We may continue to do harm to ourselves or others. And if we cannot heal, right, how can we ever say that we can confidently and securely show up, truly belonging everywhere we go, when the only place that we can truly belong consistently is within ourselves? If you do not own your truth, if I do not own my truth, I do not belong within myself. In fact, I do not even belong to myself. The stories that then live within me are not my own. They are the stories that I have been told that I should believe. They are the stories that I have been told that I should eat, but they are not my stories. So when we take a minute and say, I am willing to own the truths that are mine, we are willing to own the emotional parts of us that are ours. We are willing to belong to ourselves. And when we are willing to own our truths, it then makes it a little bit more clear which truths are not our truths, which truths have been projected on us, which truths we have been told we should believe, because it would make somebody else more comfortable if we believed that. Y'all, lean in with me here, because we are not doing that anymore. You deserve to be able to own your truth. You deserve to be able to securely and confidently show up everywhere you go. Yes, I believe that you deserve to truly belong. And we cannot depend on others to be able to validate that truth. I wish that we could. We can certainly try to hold them accountable, but we cannot be responsible for what somebody else believes on their island, right? Their individual culture island. There's a reason why they believe that. Do you have to believe that? N-O spells no friend. Don't eat that story. Please don't eat that story anymore. Let's call it quits right here. We're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to pick it up and eat it. And here's the thing is we may find ourselves being offered that story. I promise you, somebody's going to try to offer you hate and disgust and fill in the blank with their minimization, misrepresentation, or outright rejection. It's oppression by any other name. But when you see it, call it as it is and recognize you do not have to eat that "you're not enough" story anymore. You are enough. You are enough. Now let's make sure that that is the truth on your island so you can own it and truly belong everywhere that you go. For those of you who are saying you're willing to explore the space, you're willing to lean in, you're willing to own your truth and start to truly belong everywhere you go, right? It starts with you. It starts with what's going on within your individual culture island. For those of you who say, Nina, I'm still struggling trying to fit in, highlight that. If you are still struggling trying to fit in, then you are likely doing one of the following three things: molding, manipulating, or masking so that you can fit in on the outside. But internally, beneath the facade, you know that you do not feel as if you belong. Fitting in may be a temporary necessity for you. And temporary is sometimes a few minutes, and temporary may be years for you. I don't know the context of your situation, but I do want to invite you to be curious about it and to lean into your edge. Fitting in may be a temporary situation for you to survive something temporarily, but that you deserve to belong long term, I want to say goes without question, at least in this moment between you and me here. I believe that. And I believe that there are skills that you can gain in order to stop masking, manipulating, and molding yourself to fit in long term and start actually owning your truth, belonging to yourself so that you can discover the people who you truly do belong with beyond you. There is a truth here, folks. And before I share this truth with you, I really want you to ask yourself, highlight this moment, write it down in your journal. Are you busy trying to belong to yourself these days? Trying to figure out how you belong within you so that you can belong beyond you? Or are you busy trying to fit in? Whether it's within yourself or within, are you busy trying to fit in? Are you busy expending energy, masking, molding, manipulating yourself so that you can fit in? You deserve so much more. And if we can give you the skills to say, Nina, I'm ready to transform. I'm ready to transform from fitting into belonging. I believe we can do this for you, but you got to get curious first, right? So if this is you and you say, yes, here is the truth that I want to offer you. I want to put it on the table between you and I. If you choose to pick it up and run with it, then fantastic. I'm glad it works for you. If you say this doesn't work for me, you just throw it right on in the trash, right? This is about you. It's all about you in this moment. I'm trying to offer you something here from my lived experience, my professional experience, right? But personal experience as well. And it is this: your value cannot be determined by someone else. Your value cannot be determined by someone else's individual culture island. Every single one of us has our own individual culture, and on that island, there are customs. Why would you let your value be determined by someone else's customs? Could you imagine if we did that in countries, y'all? If we all of a sudden said, wow, I'm going to go ahead and let American values, or European, let's go continental here. Sorry, y'all. We're still trying to stay with nations here, right? It's Italy values, right? Italian values, right? Spain values, Spanish values, right? Against American values. We're going to say, let's start to judge our values by another. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine that? Customs are customary to particular bodies for a reason. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't judge, not judge. I don't want you to judge. I'm not saying you shouldn't question, right? I want you to question, and I want you to own the truth of what is. There is a reason why customs exist in particular spaces, and it is because of the experiences that are relative to that particular space, okay? The same is true with you. You have particular customs. Other people have particular customs, and I don't want you to automatically, habitually take on the customs of someone else. I want you to make the choice. I want you to be intentional, because your value cannot be determined by someone else's island. You are worth more. I want you to see that. With that said, you know I like to give you an adventure challenge for the upcoming week. So here we go. I hope that you have taken notes already on the following things. The reality that courage, healing, and belonging, we have found, are pretty critical for you to say, I want to live that empowered human life. I want to confidently and securely show up everywhere I go. Well, then you're going to need skills. And that's that next bit, to start to realize that there are skills to develop your courage. There are skills to develop healing capacity. And there are skills to develop your ability to belong to yourself and then to others. There are skills for this. So I hope you took notes on this, okay? This is all possible. If you are out there saying, Nina, I'm fitting in more so than belonging, then I hope that you took notes on whether you are masking, right, molding yourself or manipulating things so that you can fit in. Let that be a temporary thing, friend, so that you can truly belong to yourself everywhere you go. You are enough. And one more time for the people in the back who may not have heard it, your value cannot be determined by someone else's island. Your value must be determined by you. It starts with you. Let's let that ripple out, whatever's at the center. So again, I know I said adventure challenge time, and I walked you through the review of this episode, but here is your adventure challenge for the upcoming week. I want you to be able to identify one space, that's it, just one, in which you might be trying to fit in which you might be masking, molding yourself, or manipulating a situation so that you can fit in. And if you can admit to yourself what the situation is, if you can admit to yourself how, right, whether is it masking, molding, manipulating, what's going on here that you're trying to fit in and expending all that energy, if you can admit those two things to you and you say, Nina, I want a third level, I want you to commit to making a change. I want you to commit to saying, I'm going to shift, whether it's in my thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. I'm going to make the shift to not mask as much or at all, to not mold myself as much or maybe at all, and to not manipulate the situation as much or maybe at all. This is the empowered human way. I hope that you have enjoyed exploring and maneuvering through this. If you are wholly unfamiliar with the empowerment spectrum, you may also check out the show notes. There's a lot of goodies in there. In particular, there's the empowerment spectrum quiz. Figure out where you land on there without judgment so that you can try to transition, right, yourself from empowered to empowered, or wherever you might be, taking on these three pillars that are the courage, healing, and belonging. Thank you for being with me. Thank you so much for being willing to explore healing your humanity on Empowered Human. I hope you found at least one new way to transform your worldview from powered to empowered. If you took something from the show, please take a moment of your time and subscribe to Empowered Human. And if it really nourished you, leave us a review. Your feedback helps me understand what our community needs. Not to mention, it helps others discover the empowered human life. So keep this last bit in mind. All the visual goodies come with me on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina. Stay up to date there on upcoming episodes, behind the scenes goodness, and reels dropping knowledge. Thank you again for being part of the empowered human community. Until next time, stay curious.